Welcome to another exciting episode of Langston's World. I am your host, the Great Beard of Knowledge, and we've got a great show for you guys today. Today we're going over the survival guide to leaving the plantation, how to leave the plantation and live to tell the tale. And for the new folks, we're going to go over this segment of the show because a couple people are like, oh my God, there's segments now?
What is this? What station is this?
Yes, friends, there are segments. If this is your first time visiting Langston's World, thank you so much for coming. We're going to take good care of you. Today's segments are going to be Leaving the Plantation, followed up with In the News, where we'll be addressing the silver lining of the coronavirus. And then after we address the silver lining of the coronavirus, we're going to be jumping into some of the solutions for the common issues affiliated with planning to leave the plantation, really giving you guys something to go on as you construct these plans and start creating wealth for yourselves. One of my favorite segments before you quit your job, and we're going to tie this whole thing up with the financial freedom trail. Not just any freedom trail, but the financial freedom trail. So with no further ado, let's jump right into addressing things that typically go wrong when we're planning to get off the plantation and how we can, in the future, overcome some of these obstacles to allow us to really pursue freedom in a meaningful way. Now, the reality is most of us don't even know what a plan looks like, right? And it's not to insult anyone's intelligence. It's just the reality is when you're on the plantation, the corporation's responsibility is not to its employees, right? A lot of times we get the short end of the stick at the job where they like cut your hours back or they reduce your pay.
They don't give a damn about you. They don't like you. I don't like you.
It was never about you. It's always about protecting the interests of the shareholders. That's all these companies are interested in doing. And if they take care of the employees, it's not because they're morally obligated to do so, but it's because it drives the bottom line. They either figure out that productivity increases when you let people work from home, or the healthier the work environment is, the higher level of production. But at the end of the day, never about you. So that's why when they come to you with the plan, it's usually at an all-staff or a company-wide correspondence that you had nothing to do with. And I'm sure we've all been there when we get that company-wide email and we're reading the email and we're like,
No, what is this?
Or we're at the all-staff meeting trying to contain our frustration.
Oh, shit! Say it again! Say something else! Oh! Say something else!
The reality is that plan has been in place. The marketing team and the PR team have been working on spinning the plan so that it's more easily accepted, but you were never a part of the planning process. So when you've spent your whole life on the plantation, you've spent your whole life working for someone else or working at a corporation, you've really never had an opportunity to exercise that muscle, which has to do with the planning and the creating of systems. So this is not to insult your intelligence. It's just the reality that most of us don't know what a plan really looks like.
Ooh, boy, it's hard to be woke. It's hard to be woke.
Which brings us to the next major stumbling block of getting off the plantation and surviving to tell the tale. If you're going to survive the plantation, you got to understand what is and what is not a plan. And a lot of people, they think this is a plan. I got my LLC, I got my logo, I got my website, I've got my production equipment, and I got an office space. Now all I got to do is sit back and wait for the money to roll in like,
Bitch better have my money.
and you're already making plans for all the customers that are going to be walking through the door and all the money you're going to generate and how you're going to expand. And you're already thinking about scalability and like your second location and, oh man, I'm going to have to hire an assistant in a minute. And all you've done is execute the first stage of a plan, but it's not a plan in its entirety. All you've done is create liabilities in reality. You've got an office, which is a liability. Ooh, great. You've got equipment that you have to maintain that you spent money on. Liability. You're already talking about adding staff. More liabilities. You got a logo that costs money that isn't really having any real return on investment. You incorporate it, which costs a ton of money depending on what state you're in. If you're in Massachusetts, it's going to cost you like a G to incorporate. So you spent all this money and you really don't have a plan. Your plan was to get to this point. That's where people usually get tripped up. So after you spend all this money getting these liabilities, executing your plan, What are you doing?
You ain't doing nothing with yourself. Come on, look at you. You look like a bum just sitting there. You ain't doing nothing. Do something with yourself.
You're probably sitting in your office watching funny Instagram videos of your boy, and I'll give you a litmus test to determine whether or not you have a plan or not. Because chances are, you know, you don't. But like, here's a great litmus test. If you've ever gotten a call in the middle of the day from one of your old chums or your mom, and you spend more than an hour on that phone call without saying,
Ain't no use to you ringing my line. Stop wasting my time. It ain't about the money.
you don't really have a plan, right? That's the litmus test. People who have plans that execute strategies while they're going through their day-to-day operations don't have the luxury of being able to get off track an hour.
Stop wasting my time. It ain't about the money.
When you're on the plantation, you know, they got a plan for you, okay? They got a plan. When you get there, it's like you're going to sit your keister here at 8 o'clock on the dot if you're not. And then at lunchtime, we're going to let you go eat. But then it's back to work in 30 minutes. And then you got to be out of here because we don't want to pay you more than we have to. So get your work done between this hour and this hour, and you're going to do this, and you're going to in the afternoon. They are regimented. If your business doesn't operate with the same stringent hour by hour, minute by minute accounting for your day, then you don't really have a plan. You might be in business, but you for damn sure don't have a plan in the traditional sense. So like this segment of the show is to just really shed a light on the need for a plan. And in the Jewels, we're definitely going to break down how to create a plan, how to implement that plan, and how to survive being off the plantation. And before we get into the silver lining of the coronavirus in the news section of this show, I want to holler at the people out here hustling in silence, right? Because a lot of people like to hustle in silence. You know, they like to go in the lab and then come out with a fully finished, fleshed out business plan. That's not going to work. Like, that's stupid, because you know what you have? You got blind spots. In previous shows where I'm talking about before you leave the plantation and, the financial freedom trail, I'm like, yo, get your joint chiefs together, get your people together, have them sit down and review what you're doing. The reason that you need to do that is to cover these blind spots. Without second opinions, you're going to miss things. You're going to end up in a situation where you don't understand why things aren't going well.
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to get... take over. Oh, drat. Line. Cut!
Anybody who's already left the plantation can speak to this. Nothing goes the way you planned it, and you're always learning new things. And if you've only got one set of eyes in the construction of your business plan, I promise you're going to miss something. I'm going to use my mom as an example. She was writing a sales book. Now, my mom is a little bit more mature than I am. She doesn't like me to call her old, so we're going to call her an extra elder millennial.
Damn!
Right? She's an extra elder millennial, right? And she's writing a sales book. And it's all about cold calling and phoning language and, basically door-to-door sales. So I said, Mom, where's the part about social media marketing?
What it do?
She came up with this whole book in isolation, and then had to go back and add these other components that could have been addressed had she just had a little outside input. So don't be Dr. Frankenstein. Didn't work out for him, won't work out for you. Do not go into the lab thinking you're going to hustle in silence and magically come up with this ill-na-na approach to putting the world on its ear and coming up with the best business ever. You better have some other people in that planning session with you. And with that said, we're going to jump right into the In the News section, the silver lining of the coronavirus.
And your host of In the News, Great Beard of Knowledge.
So I'm going to start off by addressing some of the facts. The reality is that a lot of the information that you're getting is agenda driven.
The president is first and foremost a businessman. Remember, he is running for re-election on the strength of this economy, and the coronavirus outbreak is a threat to that economic strength.
I remember at the onset of this virus, first being confirmed in the United States, all communication about the virus for medical professionals affiliated with the administration had to go through the office of the vice president. And I knew right at that moment it was going to be some shit, because that meant that they were trying to control the information that was going out to the public as to manage the public's reaction to the information.
Trump has it exactly backwards. Instead of silencing the experts and having more spin from the White House, we got to silence the spin from the White House and hear from the experts.
So here are some facts. Truth is, they done fucked up. They done dropped the ball.
Son of a bitch!
Don't freak out, but the truth is they done dropped the ball. And I'm going to tell you why you don't need to freak out. The primary way they've screwed up this whole situation is not having the means to properly test people to determine whether or not they are infected with the coronavirus. So what does that mean? That means the best they can do is go, okay, you have flu-like symptoms. Okay, we're not going to test you. Just stay home. So the number of confirmed cases people have is impossible to track. And this is a big deal because this isn't the regular flu. The reality is it spreads 7 times faster than the flu. So where the flu would ordinarily infect 45 people, this has the capacity to infect 350 people with the same number of interactions with other people. This thing is highly contagious. And, you know, they're telling everybody,
because of all we've done, the risk to the American people remains very low.
Once again, trying to control the narrative, agenda-driven, keep the public calm, remain in control of the situation. The government's job is to remain in control. So that's what they're trying to do. So they're telling people to be cool. It's all good. Just relax.
Be cool, honey. Chill that fucking bitch out. Just chill out, honey bunny. Chill. Just chill out, honey bunny.
All right, now tell her it's going to be all right.
It's gonna be all right.
Promise her.
I promise.
We are on top of the situation, right? That's what they're saying. If you really want to know what it looks like when the coronavirus hits your neck of the woods, look no further than YouTube. Just YouTube China, right? Look up Wuhan, where it started.
Only 2 stores are open. It looks like only grocery stores are allowed to run. Everything else, like hair salons and so on, are closed. All over the block, there are these loudspeakers installed that remind people very persistently not to leave their homes, not to take risks, not to pay visits, and not to throw parties. Day after day, the preventative measures get tougher. For example, the day after we left, the number of times one is allowed to leave their building was limited to 3 per week.
So what does that mean? That means that that's probably coming to your neck of the woods. There will more than likely be quarantined to reduce the spread of the disease. So don't freak out when it happens. Just be cool. But understand that's what's coming because they dropped the ball. They were unable to test for who had it. And now it's on both sides of the country and everywhere in between. So don't freak out. It's coming.
Son of a bitch!
Be aware of the fact that Japan has canceled their schools for a month and China has canceled schools virtually indefinitely, forcing people to work from home. The headquarters of Google and Amazon have both been shut down. So understand these are things that are happening and will be coming to you soon. And I'm sure y'all are thinking like, damn, where is the silver lining, Great Beard? Well, here it is.
Mr. Jiggyfly, I have good news.
You enjoyed it then?
No, I just saved a bunch of money on my car insurance by switching to Geico.
Gotcha, bitch.
Here's a silver lining. The coronavirus is not truly a health threat outside of the fact that you're going to get the flu, probably. The threat of the coronavirus is a financial threat. The financial centers of the world are already reeling because the people who make real decisions, the real planners, right? People who get the big bucks, understand what the coronavirus means for the economy. It means people won't be going to work. It means supply chains are going to be broken, which means that industry is going to grind to a halt. People who would ordinarily spend money aren't going to be spending money. People who would be going out won't be going out. People who were traveling are canceling their arrangements. They're not going to be staying at hotels, so hotels are going to lose money. It's going to be a trickle down. It's going to be a trickle down. And why is that amazing? Because most of the people listening to this dialogue are not in the top 1% of the wealth on this planet. The wealthy people have everything to lose. We have everything to gain because this coronavirus has the potential to be a playing field leveling event. The first playing field leveling event in my short 32 years on Earth. This is it, y'all. Get your money ready because when the shit hits the fan, everything is going to be cheap. People are price gouging Purell. People are price gouging disinfectant wipes and all that kind of stuff. They're doing that. They're going crazy price gouging everything. Why is that good? That means that other things are being devalued. So when we come out of this thing, and we always do, When we come out on the other side of the coronavirus, guess what's going to be super cheap? Everything. You were waiting to buy your first house, guess what interest rates are? At their all-time lows. No credit, no problem. That interest rate is still going to be manageable, right? Cash is going to be king, so save that. But, when you come out of this thing, you're going to be able to buy stuff that you could never afford before. And why do I say cash is king? Because there's more than likely going to be some kind of credit freeze. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has already said that they're going to try to reduce the freezing of credit and credit availability as we respond to this global crisis. But if you got a few dollars and you come out of this thing, when you come out of this thing, you're going to be able to buy some stuff. So save your money. This is an opportunity to close the wealth gap if we look at it properly. We need to look at this disaster as an opportunity while everything is being rebuilt to make sure we have a seat at that table, to make sure that we're applying our resources to step into places where other businesses may have not survived the coronavirus and the economic hit that was passed out. Certain airlines are going to take a $60 billion hit, because a lot of this business is going to the world's largest economy, which is China. So you take away China, you take away the industry that's happening in the United States, what are you getting? You're getting tons of opportunity. Tons of businesses are probably going to shutter. So if you were thinking about starting your own business, you might be able to step into a space that was vacated by a business that didn't survive the coronavirus. And in closing, I'm going to quote Baron Rothschild. And if you know anything about the Rothschilds, you know they are one of the wealthiest, most powerful families on the face of the earth. I mean, they make Hakeem from Zamunda look like a welfare case. Baron Rothschild in the 18th century had a famous saying, "The time to buy is when there is blood on the streets." And basically what that suggests is that out of disaster, out of chaos, comes tremendous arbitrage opportunities to create wealth. So let's be ready, let's save our dollars, and when the bell rings, let's be ready to get out there on those streets and do some damage and buy up some assets and be intentional about it. So don't freak out, you'll be okay. Just make sure you got a couple weeks worth of supplies in your crib. Make sure you got plenty of toilet paper, canned goods, that kind of thing, because
when it hits the fan, brother, whether it's next year, 10 years, 20 years from now, you'll never be able to say that these brothers lied to you, Jack.
And with that said, we're going to jump right into the jewels, offering solutions to how to create the best possible plan to survive leaving the plantation. And there are three major components of this segment that I'm going to address. The first of which is write a business plan. And I know I've said this before, but I'm going to stress it this episode because this is the survival of leaving the plantation. It is hard to leave the plantation. It's why so many people don't do it. And the business plan is a great separator between those who survive off the plantation and those who do not. I'm going to stress why that is. First of all, let's acknowledge that all the money is in the planning. If you can envision something, put together an action strategy to make that vision a reality, and then execute that action plan effectively, it's worth a fortune. You think these Fortune 500 companies like paying their CEOs millions and millions of dollars? They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because they know they need highly capable people who are capable of putting a plan together and executing it to run their businesses. And I'm gonna throw a few names at you. John Legere, CEO of T-Mobile, making $66 million a year. Affectionately known as Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, getting paid $65 million a year. And then you got Brian Roberts, CEO of Comcast. He's making $35 million a year. And if you own your own company, like my man Elon Musk, you're getting even more money than that. I don't even want to talk about the hundreds of millions of dollars that brother is scooping up. But this is what happens when you can create a plan and execute it. Now, if you can put together a plan and execute it for yourself, guess what? You're going to make more money than anyone else is going to be willing to pay you, right? Because that is a skill that you can't really put a price on. It is literally priceless.
Message.
Now, the reason why everybody doesn't write a business plan, you don't hear more about it, is because business plan writing sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It takes days, if not weeks, to write a real business plan. And sometimes people will have other people write the business plan, which I think completely defeats the purpose, because the purpose is to get used to doing the planning part, to exercise that planning muscle that you need. And if you've already left the plantation, the last thing you want to hear is that you have to spend 2 weeks not making money, not making a sale, just sitting down and doing research and writing a business plan.
Not gonna be able to do it.
Trust me, player, if you want to stay off the plantation, you're going to have to do that. It's a part of the deal. And you could get away with it for a while, but you're going to start feeling pain points later when you want to get investors and they're asking you, what are your profit margins? Who's your target demographic? What's your go-to-market strategy? How much is your company worth today? You have to have those answers if you really want to grow into the kind of company that is going to be able to survive things like economic downturns or a changing market environment like the one we are experiencing right now.
Message.
And writing a business plan comes with a risk that people inherently are aware of but don't really understand. And that's the risk that you can invest all this time into a business plan and that business plan become worthless in an instant, right? Imagine all the business plans that had to have been scrapped because of the iPhone. I promise you there's somebody out there who had a business plan for the best CD player, portable CD player / DVD player / computer he could think of. And this was going to be your on-the-go device. And then what does Apple do? Steve Jobs drops the iPhone bomb on him.
Son of a...
Imagine all the devices that were eliminated with a smartphone. Instead of needing a camera in your purse, you got a phone. Instead of needing a calculator in your purse, you got a phone. Instead of needing a flashlight, you got a phone. Who remembers Palm Pilots, right? You remember that? Gone with the wind, baby. So just because you have a business plan and an idea and go-to-market strategy doesn't mean that that's all you need, because a lot of times circumstances change and that business plan gets scrapped. But guess what you saved? You saved a lot of time, energy, and investment.
Message.
Because nobody was going to buy that super Walkman that you were thinking about creating. Maybe you need to stay on the plantation until you come up with a better plan to stay off the plantation. But that's why that business plan piece is important. Invest in the business plan so you don't lose your investment trying to execute a business that doesn't actually have any viability or survivability in the real world.
Aha! Aha!
When you get into the heart of the business plan, and I highly recommend going to Live Plan. It's a $20 a month subscription, if I'm not mistaken, and it will walk you through how to build a business plan for yourself, giving you each segment and giving you guidelines and examples and suggestions. It's great for writing a business plan, y'all. When you're writing this business plan, they're going to be asking you things. You're going to be like, yo, none of my customers care about this. You're right. Your customers don't give a damn about how many millennials are in your little city. But I'll tell you what, if you don't understand your market, you don't know how much money there actually is in that market to be made. And if there isn't enough opportunity in that market, guess what? You won't be off the plantation. You will not survive being off the plantation if you don't have an opportunity great enough to pay your bills.
Woo, boy, it's hard to be woke.
So I'm going to wrap up this business plan component by saying that if you're not interested or willing to make the time investment to write a business plan, you probably will not survive being off the plantation. It's probably not going to happen for you. That's a time investment that you're going to have to make. Period. That's a separator. The second jewel that I'm going to drop in this segment is have a daily operations manual. Your daily operations manual is going to make sure that you don't waste valuable time in your day doing things that don't matter. I remember talking about my first day off the plantation and celebrating it. And I was like, yes, I'm off the plantation. And then the next thing you know,
you ain't doing no yourself. Come on, look at you. You look like a bum just sitting there. You ain't doing nothing. Do something yourself.
I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, it feels like unemployment. That's because you don't have a daily operations manual. If you leave the plantation and you don't have a daily operations manual, it's going to feel like unemployment. If you don't look at your daily planner and you don't have something booked between 9 and 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, throughout your day, trust me, your day will get away from you every day. And before you know it, you will have exhausted your operations budget and you will be right back on the plantation. So have a hour by hour playbook for each day, a daily operations manual. It's the only way you're going to survive off the plantation, because anything short of that, you're going to get a call, you're going to get sidetracked, you're going to get caught up in some detail, and before you know it, you spent your whole day on MailChimp trying to figure out how to make the perfect template for the email that you never actually sent.
No. No.
It'll happen to you. So I have a day-to-day operations manual, not because, you needed to keep people from distracting you from doing what you need to do, but also to make sure you don't spend too much time on one thing or another, because when you're running a business, you're wearing all the hats, and you need to spend some time doing marketing, as well as production, as well as sales, as well as customer service management. So let me tell you something. Have that hour by hour by hour breakdown. And here's a pro tip. Make a list of everything you need to do that day. Assign a time on your calendar where you're going to commit whatever amount of time you believe is going to be required. And after that timer goes off, whether it's 1 hour or 2 hours you're going to spend doing one thing, move on to the next one, because your business is going to be multifaceted. And if you spend too much time on one facet, your business is going to fall apart. So daily operations manual, do that today. If you got a business, even if you don't have a business, you have a job with some leeway, create that kind of time budgeting. We budget with our money. What's more valuable than money? You can always go out and get more money. You can hit a scratch off and get more money. You cannot hit the lottery and get 100 more years. So be especially judicious with your time.
That boy is good.
This last one is one of my favorites because I've got great friends, and I want to just shout out the Justice League that I have in my universe. Everybody from JoJo and Musa and Young Jeezy out in Cleveland to Brandon. I just got great friends around me. Greenwood Collective, you name it. I got a lot of people who can cover a lot of blind spots. And not to mention my little sugarfoot Jasmine. She's the best. But my Justice League helps me cover blind spots. And one of the blind spots I had was merchandising. I should have been merchandising. And because I had a good friend, brother, cousin reach out to me and go, hey, Lang, we need to just get this formula for this beard oil together because people want to know what you're putting in your beard. Here we go. Thank you, Brandon, for giving me the heads up. Because people want to know what kind of juices and berries I'm putting in my beard to get the glow that I get, And it's not fair that I'm keeping it from you. So coming soon, great beard of knowledge, great beard oil is coming. Probably going to make it available for online order exclusively, but it's coming, guys. So be patient with me. I'm working on it. But the Great Beard of Knowledge beard oil and additional merch is coming. I've been sleeping on that. But because I have a Justice League of people who can catch these blind spots, they're not blind spots for long. And that's what this Justice League is to you. Speaking of Justice League, shout out to For My Melanin. They make dope novelty gear. And if you know me, I love my novelty gear. You know what I'm saying? And they've got this dope t-shirt that I just ordered for myself called the Just Us League, in the same stance as like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. You've got Malcolm X Garvey and Harriet Tubman. Dope shirt. I suggest everybody rep. But check it out. You get an extra 15% off dropping the promo code Langston's World. Super dope gear. Bottom line, don't get caught slipping without your Justice League. Okay? Even Superman had Batman. Batman had Robin. And on down the line. You got blind spots. Everybody does. And when you're getting off the plantation, like I was saying, when you're creating your plan, don't plan alone. Don't go alone, but don't plan alone. And I'm going to give you guys a pro tip. Here's a pro tip. Get your people together. Set the table. Literally set the table. Put some drinks out there. Have some food, some refreshments, music, whatever, because they're giving you something that is invaluable. They are operating as your rear view, your backup camera, and your side view mirrors to make sure you don't get run off the road by some other business or changing environmental condition that you are oblivious to when you go to invent something or go to bring something to market that has no real survivability. You know, like I was saying, you have some haters in there. A lot of us go into the lab and we're so protective of what we're doing and we don't want the negative criticism and that we don't want. No, negative criticism is good. If your business can stand up to negative criticism, that means that people who are interested in your product are going to buy it. They don't have an excuse not to buy it. Even the haters going to buy it. So the people who are, neutral or actually want to support you are going to be happy to buy it. So make sure you got some haters. Make sure you got some Justice League going on. Make sure you've got some people around you that can cover your blind spots as you bring this business to market.
That boy is good.
Now that we've covered the gist of making sure that you have a business plan, you have a day-to-day, hour-by-hour manual for managing your time, as well as surrounding yourself with the Justice League that are going to be there to help you put your plan together. Now we can get into one of my favorite segments, before you quit your job.
Wow. I hate this fucking job. I wish it'd burned down and I still get paid.
Before you quit your job, make sure you take ownership of the relationships with the people you work with. You spent years working at your gig, building these relationships and memorizing birth dates and going down to the water cooler with people and talking about sports and what did you bring for lunch and all kinds of stuff you really don't care about. You made that's an investment. Do not blow that up out the door, on some Jerry Maguire stuff.
Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? This is embarrassing.
All right, don't go out like that, okay? Make sure that you carefully and intentionally start collecting the private emails and phone numbers and contacts for the people you work with, because there's going to be a time in the future where they're either going to become customers, supporters, fans, or partners in your pursuit. So don't leave without capturing that human capital that you spent years developing. And it gets worse, because if you don't carefully manage these relationships and own these relationships, what happens? You got to hit them up on the work phone. So you hit them up on the work phone, and they don't have the time to talk to you because they are worried about losing their position at the company. They're not ready to leave the plantation. So you call them on the work phone, and, 2 weeks ago before you quit your job, it was,
Hey, where's the bitches at, nigga? Where's the bitches?
and now it's,
Hey, man, how's everything going, brother? Oh, just taking it easy, hanging out with the old lady. All right, God bless you. Take it easy now. All right. Be like, that nigga ain't like that.
and they got no time for you, right? Because they don't want to get fired. You might have left to go to the competition, or you might have gone to become the competition in your own business, or any number of things that could potentially jeopardize their position. So protect yourself and protect them.
I'm sure he's Master's on his way.
And make sure you own those relationships. You get that contact information before you walk out the door. Now, while you're going about building these relationships and solidifying these relationships outside of work, be careful not to tip your hand and let your employer know that you're planning on getting off the plantation, because that will completely dissolve your bargaining power in the future and could have immediate negative impacts, because now they're talking about passing you up for job promotions. They're talking about passing you up for opportunities. Oh, he's not going to be here very long. Don't worry about giving him an opportunity to do that. And now it's messing with your money in the short term, money that you could be leveraging to build your plantation getaway vehicle.
Son of a bitch!
So make sure you do that stuff on the low. Don't get crazy, telling people, I'm out of here, man. Let me get your phone number, because when I get off this thing, boy.
You ain't never seen no nigga be gone like I'ma be gone. Tell you something. You ain't seen no nigga ride out like me.
And once again, and I've said it and I'll say it again, a positive work environment is usually not maintained out of the moral fortitude and integrity of your employer, but simply to avoid running afoul of the law. Because at the end of the day, your employer's responsibility is to the shareholders and the ownership of the company, and not to the employee. So that's why it's so important that you tread lightly as you get off the plantation, so that you can make sure that you survive.
Woo, boy, it's hard to be woke. It's hard to be woke.
With no further ado, we're going to get right into the financial freedom trail. Not just any freedom trail, the financial freedom trail. In today's segment of the Financial Freedom Trail, I'm going to implore everyone listening to start employing experts to improve your financial circumstances. Start employing experts to improve your financial circumstances. I know a lot of people are like, look, I don't have the money to do anything. I'm barely an employee myself, so how am I going to employ someone to operate on my behalf? I just don't have the money. So, no problem. I'm going to start off by telling you a true story. I have a client. She was worried to death that the IRS man was going to come to her house, kick the door in,
Here's Johnny,
and take everything she owned. And I said, well, have you spoken to your CPA? Have you talked to your accountant? And she said, I did, but I didn't bring this up.
what?
No, that's what they are there for, okay? That's what they are there for. That's what they get paid to do. You pay them to do your taxes. Part of what they do is answer questions. So ask them, should I be worried about this, and that? And they will tell you what you need to do if you need to do anything. And a lot of times, by them giving you that kind of advice, they are liable to make sure that that advice is accurate. And if it's not, you can hold them responsible. So don't lose sleep over things that you could just ask an expert to answer for you, relieving you of the responsibility of being misinformed.
Aha! Aha!
Just employ those people around you. And it doesn't stop with accountants, right? Financial planners, dime a dozen, 1,000,000 to 1. There's like 1,000,000 financial planners for every one person, and they all want your business. Pick up the phone, call one of these 200-year-old institutions like New York Life or Prudential, ask to talk to a financial planner, and they will give you all the free game they can give you. And guess what? They work on commission most of the time. So as long as you don't end up buying anything, you get all the free game you can handle. And if that free game is as effective as it should be, you will be in a position in the future financially to invest. And hopefully you think of them first because they were able to provide that free game to you. That's how this works. So start today employing people to do your bidding from a financial standpoint. Start today employing cats to work on your behalf to deliver you the most up-to-date, accurate, valuable information you can get your hands on to make decisions to improve your financial situation. So after this financial catastrophe, which is the coronavirus, blows over, you're positioned to take advantage of that silver lining, which is the devaluing of so many assets in our society, so we can close up this wealth gap.
Damn, this is good! This is good!
If you're looking for a professional to a point in your universe that can help you kind of figure out how to navigate this crazy world of adulting and financial literacy, inbox me. Just go to Instagram and find me at Langston White. First name, last name, no funny business, no hashtags, nothing like that. Just Langston White. There I am. So holler at me. And with all that said, I'm going to bring this show to a close. Thanks again for rocking with me. If you enjoyed the segments, let me know on Instagram. You want to show your support, follow me there. I got a lot of exclusive content that's going up on Instagram. It's a fun time. I'm loving every second of being off the plantation. If you have anything I want to cover or you're looking for a shout out in the future, please let me know. And in the shout out section, I got to plug my man Winston Henderson, Bad Mama Jamma, doing things in Boston that really haven't been done before, which is really trying to diversify the tech startup community. Boston is the home of so many tech startups, probably largely in part due to the fact that MIT and Harvard and so many prestigious higher education institutions are right here in our backyard. And there's not enough Black-owned or Black business startups that are being funded and getting the kind of traction that they deserve. And the event that's happening on March 19th, assuming that the coronavirus doesn't get too crazy between now and then, is Sankofa Presents Sneakers, Culture, and Sports. We provide the culture, and typically the industry is owned by someone else. So this is an opportunity to shift the dialogue, get in front of some decision makers, get the kind of capital that's required to get business startups in these particular sectors off the ground and running. And I will put a link to that event in the description as well. So lastly, but not least, I do this show for the love of the game, and I literally work for likes. So if you are feeling this episode, please let me know. It means the world to me. It makes my day every time I get an email or a text message or a DM saying that they enjoyed the show, because otherwise I feel like I'm talking to myself most of the time. I literally feel like I'm just talking to
Wilson! Wilson! Wilson!
Wilson, which is enough. You know, I got enough personality to be by myself and enjoy the company, but I would like to hear from y'all. So hit me up on Instagram. That's where I live. But with no further ado, I'm gonna bring this one to a close. Great Beard of Knowledge out.